My name is Rebecca. I'm 28, and at exactly 2:47 p.m. on my wedding day, I watched my mother-in-law cut the power to my entire reception venue. I know the exact time because I was standing at the back of the ballroom, watching 200 guests gasp in unison as the chandeliers went dark. The DJ's music died mid-song. The projection screen showing our photo montage flickered to black. Even the exit signs faded, plunging the windowless ballroom into complete darkness. For 3 seconds, there was nothing but confused murmuring. Then someone screamed. Then chaos. I stood frozen in my wedding dress, a $1,000 gown that suddenly felt like a costume. My hands were shaking, not from shock, from rage, because I knew exactly who had done this. My mother-in-law, Patricia Hartman, was standing near the electrical panel door with a small smile on her perfectly painted lips. She caught my eye across the dark room. She didn't look away. She didn't pretend to be surprised. She just smiled wider. If you stay until the end, I'll tell you exactly how my mother-in-law tried to destroy my wedding and how I destroyed her entire life in return. Let me back up. I met David Hartman 3 years ago at a marketing conference in Chicago. He was charming, successful, and kind in a way that felt rare. We dated for a year before he proposed on a beach in Mexico. It was perfect. Meeting his mother was not. Patricia Hartman was 56 years old, dressed like she was 40, and acted like she owned every room she entered. The first time we met, she hugged me, then immediately stepped back and looked me up and down like I was livestock at an auction. "So, you're the girl," Patricia said, her voice sweet but her eyes cold. "David's told me absolutely nothing about you." David laughed nervously. "Mom, I've told you plenty." "Has he?" Patricia turned to him. "Because I don't remember hearing about her family background, or her education, or where she works." I smiled, trying to stay polite. "I work in digital marketing. I manage social media campaigns for—" "Social media," Patricia interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "How modern." David's father was a lawyer. Real work, important work. I felt David tense beside me. "Mom, Rebecca is very successful. I'm sure she is," Patricia said, but her tone suggested she believed the opposite. "Well, come in. Dinner is almost ready." That first dinner set the pattern for the next 2 years. Patricia criticized everything about me. My clothes were too casual, my job was frivolous, my family was quaint because we weren't wealthy, my apartment was small, my car was old, but she did it all with a smile, with that sweet voice that made it impossible to call her out without looking sensitive or dramatic. "Oh, Rebecca dear, are you wearing that? I thought this was a formal event." "Your mother is lovely, but does she really work at a grocery store? How interesting." "David, are you sure Rebecca can afford to contribute to the wedding? We wouldn't want her to strain herself financially." David defended me at first, then he started making excuses for her. "She's just protective. She means well. She's adjusting to the idea of me getting married." But I saw the truth. Patricia didn't want David to get married. She wanted him to stay single, available, and completely devoted to her. When we got engaged, Patricia didn't congratulate us. She cried, real tears streaming down her face as she clutched David's hands. "I'm losing you," she sobbed. "My baby boy is leaving me." "David, I'm not leaving you," he said, looking uncomfortable. "I'm just getting married." "It's not the same," Patricia whispered, looking at me with pure venom disguised as sadness. "She's taking you away from your family." That was 15 months ago. Since then, Patricia had done everything in her power to sabotage our wedding. She accidentally sent the wrong address to half the guest list, causing 40 people to show up at a closed restaurant instead of the venue. She called our florist and canceled our order, claiming we'd changed our minds. She told the caterer we wanted a vegan menu, even though neither David nor I were vegan. She called my dress designer and said the wedding was postponed, trying to delay my final fitting. Every time, David made excuses. It was a mistake. She's stressed. She's not used to wedding planning. But I knew better. Patricia was waging a silent war, and I was losing. The final straw came 1 week before the wedding. Patricia called me and asked to meet for lunch, just the two of us. She said she wanted to clear the air and start fresh. I should have known better, but I wanted peace. I wanted David's mother to accept me, so I agreed. We met at an upscale restaurant downtown. Patricia was already seated when I arrived, wearing a designer dress and her signature pearl necklace. She stood and hugged me, holding on just a second too long. "Rebecca," she said warmly, "thank you for meeting me. I know things have been tense." "I appreciate you reaching out," I said carefully, sitting down. Patricia ordered us both wine without asking what I wanted. Then she folded her hands on the table and looked at me with those cold eyes. "I'm going to be direct," she said. "I don't think you're right for David." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You're a nice girl," Patricia continued, as if she was commenting on the weather. "But you're not from our world. You don't understand what it means to be part of a family like ours. David needs someone who can elevate him, not drag him down." My hands clenched under the table. "I love David, and he loves me." "Love," Patricia laughed softly. "Love fades, dear. What matters is compatibility, breeding, status, things you simply don't have." I should have walked out. I should have thrown my wine in her face. Instead, I stayed frozen, listening. "So here's what I'm offering," Patricia said, reaching into her purse. She pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. "Inside is a check for $50,000. Take it, call off the wedding, tell David you're not ready, walk away quietly, and you'll never have to see me again." I stared at the envelope. "You're trying to pay me to leave your son?" "I'm trying to save my son from a mistake, and I'm being generous about it. $50,000 is more than you'd see in years at your little social media job." That's when I knew Patricia wasn't going to stop. She wasn't going to accept me. She was going to keep attacking until she destroyed my relationship with David. So I made a decision. If she wanted war, I'd give her war. I picked up the envelope. Patricia smiled, thinking she'd won. "Thank you for this," I said quietly. "I'm going to use it as evidence." Patricia's smile faltered. "Evidence?" "Evidence of harassment, attempted bribery, interference with a legal marriage contract." I tucked the envelope into my bag. "See you at the wedding, Patricia." I walked out. For the next week, I planned. Not just the wedding, my revenge. I hired a private investigator. Not a dramatic decision, but a practical one. If Patricia was going to come for me, I needed ammunition to fight back. His name was Marcus Chen, mid-40s, former cop, specialized in family disputes. I met him in his office and laid out everything. The sabotage, the bribery attempt, the constant attacks. "I need to know everything about Patricia Hartman," I said. "Her finances, her social life, her secrets, everything she doesn't want people to know." Marcus looked at me carefully. "Are you sure? Sometimes when you dig into family, you find things you can't unknow." "I'm sure," I said. Marcus started digging. Within 3 days, he found the first crack in Patricia's perfect facade. Patricia Hartman, the woman who bragged about her dead husband's law career and her family's old money, was broke. Not struggling, broke. Her husband hadn't left her a fortune. He'd left her debt. Massive debt, from bad investments and a gambling problem no one knew about. Patricia had been living on credit cards and loans for 5 years, maintaining the appearance of wealth while drowning financially. The designer clothes? Rented. The luxury car? Leased and 3 months behind on payments. The country club membership she bragged about? Canceled 6 months ago for non-payment. Patricia's entire life was a performance. But that wasn't the worst part. Marcus found something else, something that would destroy Patricia's reputation completely. Patricia Hartman, the woman who bragged about her dead husband's law career and her family's old money, had been having an affair with her deceased husband's law partner, Gerald Mitchell, for 8 years, including 3 years while her husband was still alive. Gerald was married. His wife Linda was Patricia's supposed best friend. And there were emails. hundreds of them, detailed, explicit, damning emails about the affair, about hiding money from Patricia's husband, about planning to divorce their spouses and run away together. Except Gerald never left his wife. He'd stopped responding to Patricia's emails 2 years ago, but Patricia kept writing them, begging him to come back, threatening to tell his wife. Marcus handed me a USB drive containing everything. He said, "This is nuclear. If you use this, there's no going back." I took the drive. Good. The wedding day arrived. I woke up at 6 a.m., got my hair and makeup done, and put on my dress. I looked beautiful. I felt calm, because I knew exactly what was about to happen. The ceremony was flawless. David looked at me like I was the only person in the world. Patricia sat in the front row, barely smiling, her jaw tight. But she behaved. She didn't object. She didn't make a scene. I almost thought she'd given up. Then came the reception. We entered to applause, did our first dance, cut the cake. Everything was perfect. Until 2:47 p.m. That's when Patricia made her move. I was talking to my bridesmaids near the back of the room when the lights went out. The sudden darkness triggered panic. Guests started pulling out phone flashlights. The venue staff scrambled to find backup generators. But I saw Patricia. She was standing near a side door marked electrical, staff only. She must have convinced or bribed someone to give her access. When the emergency lights finally came on 10 minutes later, the DJ's equipment was dead. The projector was fried. Half the food warmers had shut off, ruining dinner. The venue manager was apologizing profusely, saying there'd been a power surge, a malfunction, something technical. But I knew, and Patricia knew I knew. She caught my eye across the room and smiled, a small, satisfied smile that said, "I win." That's when I stopped pretending to be the gracious bride. I walked straight to the DJ booth, grabbed the working microphone, and tapped it. The sound echoed through the room. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" I said. My voice was calm, steady, amplified across 200 guests. The room went quiet. David looked at me confused. Patricia looked annoyed. "I want to thank everyone for coming today. It means so much to David and me to have you here to celebrate our marriage." I paused, smiled, then continued. "I especially want to thank my new mother-in-law, Patricia Hartman, for being so involved in our wedding planning." Patricia's face went stiff. She sensed something was wrong. Patricia has been so generous with her time, always offering advice, always trying to help. In fact, she was so involved that she even tried to give me a very special gift last week. I reached into my bouquet. Hidden among the flowers was the envelope she'd given me at lunch. I pulled it out. Patricia offered me $50,000 to call off the wedding, to leave her son. Gasps rippled through the crowd. David's face went pale. Patricia stood up, shaking her head. That's not true," Patricia shouted. "She's lying. I have the check right here." I held up the envelope. "Made out to me, signed by you, with wedding cancellation in the memo line." More gasps. Whispers exploded across the room. David stared at his mother in shock. "You're taking it out of context," Patricia said desperately. "I was trying to help. I was worried she was marrying you for money." "Funny you should mention money," I said. I looked at the projector screen. It was still dead, so I pulled out my phone and held it up. "Since the projector's not working, let me just read a few things," I said. I opened the Notes app where I'd saved key excerpts from the emails Marcus had found. "This is an email from Patricia to Gerald Mitchell, dated 3 years ago," I said. "My darling Gerald, I can't keep living this lie. When are we finally going to tell everyone? My husband suspects nothing. Your wife is too stupid to notice. We could be happy together if you just leave her." The room went completely silent. Patricia's face drained of all color. "Gerald Mitchell," I repeated. "That's your husband's former law partner, isn't it, Patricia? And Linda Mitchell is supposed to be your best friend?" Linda Mitchell was sitting at table 6. She stood up slowly, staring at Patricia with her mouth open. "There are hundreds of these emails," I continued, "detailing a years-long affair. including intimate details I won't read at my wedding, but I'll happily forward them to Linda if she'd like to see them. Linda walked toward Patricia. "You've been sleeping with my husband?" Patricia backed away. "This is a misunderstanding. For 8 years?" Linda's voice was shaking. "While you came to my house for dinner? While you called me your friend?" "And speaking of money," I said, turning back to the crowd, "I think everyone should know that Patricia's financial situation isn't quite what she's led people to believe." I read from my notes again. Patricia currently has $17,000 in credit card debt, 2 car payment liens, and was kicked out of the country club for bouncing checks. The designer clothes, rented. The wealth, gone. She's been living a lie for years. Patricia lunged toward me. "You little—" David stepped between us. He looked at his mother with an expression I'd never seen before. Disgust. "Is any of this true?" David asked quietly. Patricia's face crumpled. She tried to reach for him. "David, please, I was trying to protect you." "Did you try to bribe Rebecca?" David asked. Patricia hesitated. That hesitation was answer enough. "Did you have an affair with Gerald?" David pressed. "It's complicated," Patricia whispered. "Did you just cut the power to sabotage our wedding?" David asked. Patricia didn't answer. She just started crying. Real tears this time, but not tears of manipulation. Tears of someone whose world was collapsing. Linda Mitchell was now on her phone, presumably calling her husband. Other guests were whispering frantically. Patricia's friends were staring at her like they didn't recognize her. "Get out," David said to his mother. "Get out of our wedding." "David, please." "Now," David said. His voice was ice. Patricia looked around the room. No one was sympathetic. No one was coming to her defense. Her mask had been ripped off, and everyone could see what was underneath. She grabbed her purse and fled. The doors slammed behind her. For a moment, the room was silent. Then the DJ, who'd been watching everything with wide eyes, found a backup speaker and started playing music. Soft at first, then louder. The tension broke. Guests started talking, laughing nervously, processing what had just happened. The caterers brought out the salvaged food. The party, somehow, continued. David pulled me aside. He looked exhausted. "Why didn't you tell me it was this bad?" I asked, "Would you have believed me?" He paused, then shook his head. "Probably not. I'm sorry." "I know," I said. "What happens now?" David asked. "Now," I said, taking his hand, "we enjoy our wedding, and your mother deals with the mess she created." The next week was chaos for Patricia. Linda Mitchell filed for divorce from Gerald and named Patricia in the filing as the reason. Patricia's friends from the country club cut her off completely. Her church asked her to step down from the volunteer board. Her reputation was destroyed. She tried calling David repeatedly. He didn't answer. She tried calling me once. I picked up. "You destroyed my life," Patricia said, her voice hollow. "No," I said calmly. "I exposed the truth. You destroyed your own life with lies." "I was trying to protect my son," Patricia whispered. "You were trying to control him," I corrected. "There's a difference." "He'll forgive me eventually. He's my son." "Maybe, but he'll never trust you again, and that's worse." I hung up. 3 months later, David and I bought a house. We didn't invite Patricia to the housewarming. David still talks to her occasionally, but the relationship is different now. Distant, polite, but not warm. Patricia sold most of her belongings to pay off debts. She moved to a smaller apartment. She got a job for the first time in decades. Her carefully constructed life of wealth and status is gone. Some people say I went too far, that I humiliated her publicly, that I should have handled it privately. But here's what I learned. Toxic people rely on your silence. They count on you being too polite, too kind, too afraid of making a scene. They hide behind family and good intentions while they destroy you slowly. Patricia tried to destroy my wedding because she thought I wouldn't fight back. She thought I was weak. She was wrong. You don't have to accept mistreatment from anyone, even family, especially family, because family shouldn't treat you that way in the first place. Patricia wanted to control her son by eliminating me. Instead, she lost him by revealing who she really was. Sometimes the best revenge isn't carefully planned. It's just the truth said out loud when they expect you to stay silent. My wedding didn't go the way I planned. The lights went out, dinner was ruined, the projector died. But I married the man I love. And I freed him from the woman who was slowly suffocating him with her lies. That's worth more than any perfect wedding day.